day, viewers. Welcome back to the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. That is I. Years and years and years now, I'm sure most of you have heard the same things I've heard and seen on billboards and so forth, that to have a fulfilled life, the fullness of life is found in Christ Jesus, in the Bible, in going to church and religion. Well, I've got something for you. Secular humanism is the fullness of life. We've got answers. Not long ago, I had a particular client of mine before she moved off to another city. She hired me. I went over to her home to train her. About the second or third session, a couple weeks later, she knew I was an atheist, and she opened up to me and said, "David, I discovered you're an atheist. And after training with you for a few weeks now, you surprised me. I see another side to you." And I said, "What does that mean to you?" She goes, "Well, I expect you to be so logical and rational, which you seem to be, but you're showing me something different." I said, "What is that difference?" I knew where she was headed. She said she didn't want to offend me, so I had to get it out of her. I said, "Oh, you think because I'm an atheist, I don't have what?" And then she said, "Yeah, feelings, emotions, having fun in life, having a fulfilled life." She says, "You make me laugh, you tell me jokes." She was surprised, so I had to explain to her, well, actually, I'm not like the original Star Trek series back in the 1960s with Dr. Spock, pure logic and reason. This whole concept that we as secular humanists promote the fullness of life is incomprehensible for many. So we need to share with these people that we can have a fulfilled life. Secular humanism promotes science and reason. That's the premise of secular humanism, atheism, and agnosticism. We strongly promote science, logic, critical thinking, and reason, yes. Starting back with the Greek and the Roman philosophers, all the way up into northern Italy, where my paisans and my genetic roots are from, right, in Italy. With the Renaissance, the Awakening, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and so forth, they started waking up and beginning to see that humanity is very important and the human mind. And then we went into the enlightenment of humanism, the rational thinkers sitting around the coffee table at Starbucks in old Paris in the mid-1700s, right? The French philosophers, they began to separate from the belief in a God into pure secular humanism. And then we had modern science and now modern technology. But there's always a pushback, isn't there? There's always a resistance to the moving and progression of secular humanism, science, and reason. That was called Romanticism. Romanticism was a revolt against the Enlightenment rationalism from the mid-1700s to the mid-1800s. Romanticism had an impact on some pretty good things, I'd have to say. Literature, art, music, education, politics, environmentalism, philosophy, poetry. They believed, as the Romantics they were, that feelings were over reason. Art was over science, solitude over society. The major influence of that time was a Swiss philosopher, Jean Rousseau, who clearly said over and over again that feelings and emotions are more important than reason, is a better way to know facts and data, and is a better guide to truth than pure reason. So here we have a dilemma, like my client. "David, I'm surprised that you're logical, rational, science-based." Actually, I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised that you also have these things called feelings and emotions. Now, we know through brain science and neurology that there's a particular part of the human brain called the amygdala. It's a small little part that does produce feelings and emotions. Secular humanism makes room for poetry, arts, music, the full human experience. But our premise is science and reason. Now, this is something interesting, and some of you may not like this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Well, let me tell you something. Within demographics, human demographics, of all the public speakers out there, personally, I, without a college education, I, with my Pentecostal preaching background, I had never been exposed to data, facts, and science. Now I can sit at a TED Talk and listen to someone like my friend Anthony and my friend and other friends down in San Antonio and other cities who promote science and reason. I could sit at a TED Talk and listen for hours to scientists and philosophers with quantitative data and charts and evidence. I love it. But of all known speakers, there's a group of people that go off to a particular place called a college, seminary. Yeah. Preachers. Preachers are trained to relay a message to their listeners. Now, most of what they say we know is fictitious. We know that. But the method of taking a message and motivating people into emotions and feelings is extremely beneficial for what they want to do. My point is, folks, there is nothing wrong with having a premise of science, fact, reason, enlightenment. That is our premise. But we can move and show others that a life of fulfillment, secular humanism promotes for these beautiful things. Not long ago, I was speaking down in Houston at one of the smaller humanist groups there, and it's the first time she's ever heard me do public speaking, so she came to me after, and I often get this at some of these places I speak at. There's always a few people that come up to me and said, man, you sound just like an old preacher, but, because I used to be, but she said, you know what? I like the passion you have. It motivates me to action. Well, that is my job as the Preaching Humanist. When I speak at public groups, and even here on my show, I'm trying to enlighten my listeners to know that it is more than just fact, science, and reason. It's also the full human experience of emotion, music, poetry, the arts, enjoying life to the fullness. Thank you so much for watching the Preaching Humanist, and remember, let the light of secular humanism shine. Have a wonderful day.